Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Beaver and today we are finally getting around to making our Amarula. Now we're going to be using our Marula Mampoer that we made quite a while ago. I'll put the video link up here where we made the wash for the Marula Mampoer. We finally got around to distilling it. How we distilled it was quite simple. We did what is referred to as a 1.5 distill. So half the wash went into the boiler. We distilled it off at a stripping run speed. Now what a stripping run is just simply turning your still up as high as your condenser will be able to knock down the vapor. So for my still it was about 75% of the full power that my still could handle. And we knocked back the vapors using no reflux, nothing. We just took off as much of the alcohol as we could. We didn't worry about cuts. We didn't take any foreshots, heads or anything. We just let the still run. We collected up until 10% ABV came off the spout. We then had about 7 liters at 40%. We then took that 7 liters at 40%. We then weighed it into the other half of the wash that was left over. We filled the boiler with that wash and that 7 liters of what's referred to as low wines. We then turned the still back on and then we proceeded to do a spirit run. Now the difference between a strip and a spirit is when you change over to a spirit run, you want to control all the variables that you want to get the product that you need. So first off, what I do to ensure that I take off a condensed version of what's referred to as foreshots and heads, meaning the very poisonous methanol and stuff that comes off first. Yes, you're not going to get all the methanol, but yeah, that's a later video. But I use reflux for 20 minutes to compress that first segment of the run. Now I put my still into full reflux for a full 20 minutes, allowing the vapors to travel up and down in the column. After 20 minutes have elapsed, I turn the reflux down and take off what's referred to as foreshots. Now for that size of a run, I decided to take off 220 mils of foreshots. Why? Well, it was at that point where I stopped smelling and slightly tasting the little prickly stuff around my tongue. We still had some jagged and heavy acetone flavors coming through, so I decided to take another jar of heads. Now this took it off at 80% off the still, and yeah, it still had some slight acetone flavors coming through. So the moment that it transitioned from that acetone, jaggedy, burns your kind of nose kind of smells, I decided to switch into a hard jar. Now for this run, because it's such a large run and I didn't want to have a whole bunch of jars on the table as you see in front of me, I decided to take 1 liter cut of the hards. Now that came off at 75%. We then switched over into our smaller cut jars because I was waiting for those tails to start coming in. We took the next jar off at 75%, still nice sweet fruity flavors. The next jar, we took that off at 75% once again. Then jar 4, we started transitioning into our tails, but I wanted to capture some of those tails, so I allowed it to come off at about 60%. Now once I started hitting those very tailsy flavors, if you don't know what tail smells like, it smells different to everybody, but for me it smells like wet cardboard, almost moldy or musty kind of smells. I then decided to use my compression technique so I can compress my tails, and then I took off 2 more jars at 85%. Taking off 2 jars at 85%, we compressed those tails and those flavors cleaned up quite nicely. After that, the smells that came off there weren't what I wanted, so I just turned off the still and didn't take any more product off. This is the run in front of us. What we're going to do now is quickly blend these together, do a taste of that, and then we'll get into the Amarula recipe. So yeah, that run produced 2.6 liters at 75%. I could have taken a bit more off the run, but like I said, I don't want to mess around with some of those tails flavors, as well as that first jar of heads that I took off was a bit too jaggy for me. So yeah, what I want to do is proof it down to about 50% and then add it into the Marula recipe, just so we are closer to what you would do if you had store-bought spirits that you want to make this Amarula with. So what I'm going to do now is take this unproofed spirit and put it into bottles. I'm not going to proof down all of this just because I don't want to mess up and not be able to make anything else out of the spirit. So I'm just going to proof down the amount I need to do the recipe. Let's start off first by tasting our Marula Mampoer. It has now been proofed down to 50%. Let's quickly give it a taste. It doesn't have a very Marula forward smell. And when I say that is, if you do not know there's Marula in there, you will not be able to pick it out unless you know the Marula smell. It has a slight bit of that peppery smell that I spoke about in the video when we were making the wash that came from the seeds of the Marula, or the nut from the Marula fruit. Now on the taste, on the other hand, the first thing that you taste is Marula. If you've ever taken a fresh Marula or a ripe yellow Marula, that initial hit of a little bit of sour, a little bit of sweet, that citrusy flavors comes through. Yeah, it's quite a good brandy. If you stuck around this far, remember to hit that subscribe button down in the corner there, ring the bell icon, give us a like, and as always, put a comment down below. We always appreciate those comments. This recipe we're going to be using is loosely based on a Baelish Irish cream type of recipe, where, as far as I could tell from the research that I've done, that is similar to what Amarula does. The only difference is they actually use the Amarula Mampoer, or the spirit distilled from the Marula fruit, in their final product. If you want to do this recipe at home, you can substitute any of these types of things. For the Marula Mampoer, you can always use a neutral grain or a vodka that will be able to give you the similar alcoholic bite that the Amarula has, or an Baelish Irish cream has. Or you can even get yourself some Marula essence that you can add in there if you want to get that Marula flavor. The recipe for today, what we're going to be using is cacao. So this is cocoa powder, but the dark kind, so it's dark cocoa powder. We are going to be using some ideal milk. The reason why I'm not going for cream and going for ideal milk is so it is a little bit more shelf stable for a longer period of time, as well as some condensed milk. So the combination of these two in the right ratio should give us the creamy mouth feel that we are looking for when it comes to using cream only, but will give us a longer shelf life. Now, these two you can always substitute out depending on what your flavor or preference is. I will be using, just because I have it, some of this bootleggers vanilla extract. So this is not an essence but an extract from actual vanilla beans. If you do not have access to an extract, you can always use essence. And then for the coffee, now the recipes that I've got offline suggest you use instant coffee. Now I prefer to use a coffee that has been freshly ground. I took some freshly ground coffee, but 2 heaped tablespoons, and added it into this jar, put some cold water on it and left it overnight so it can steep and cold brew and pull out those nice deep rich coffee flavors. now it's time to give it a taste. Now, to have an accurate representation of Amarula, I went and I got myself a souvenir size bottle of Amarula so we can taste the difference between the two. First up, I think I got the color wrong. Consistency wise, we have a similar consistency between the two. After tasting these two side by side, the cocoa in this Irish cream recipe that I used is overpowering the flavor of the Marula. So what I'm going to do is change the recipe slightly and just take out the cocoa. So bear with me while we prepare that recipe. Now, after some experimentation, here is what we came up with. Now, first off, this is not a bad liqueur. It is just a little bit too bitter to pass as a Amarula. So, Amarula must be doing something slightly different to the guys from Bailey's when it comes to their cream. So, yeah. Let's quickly run over the recipe that we used. We first of all cut down completely on the cocoa powder, as you can see from the color. Now the next thing we did is we increased the sweetness and the creaminess of the final product by adding an additional 150 ml of the condensed milk, the sweetened condensed milk. We also dialed back a little bit on the vanilla. Instead of going for 7.5, I should have gone with my first instinct and only gone with the original 5 ml. We kept the coffee the same. These two taste completely different. First of all, this one is slightly bitter. This one has a lot more sweetness and you can taste the Marula in it. Where the Amarula has a lot more Amarula flavor. Now it does not necessarily taste like Marula, but it does have a distinct Amarula flavor. This is as close as I could get it to that flavor. So yeah, that's the recipe, and hopefully you guys will try it at home and create something similar to this. I will post both recipes down in the description box below, so you guys can go and experiment, and please let me know if you have any other recipes that you can suggest to get us closer to the Amarula flavor, because we have a ton of this left over for us to experiment with. So I'm looking forward to everybody's suggestions down in the comments section on recipes that we can use with this Marula Mampoer to turn it into a cream. Thank you very much for watching. Hit that subscribe button down in the corner, and as always, have a lekker day.